Hello, my name is Idrissa Valazat. This is the final presentation of my final research project. And the first section will be about the clarification of the problem. The internet is an essential part of our life, especially during the quarantine. And I've noticed that not so many people, especially political scientists, are interested in the way internet influences the political formation of the country. Even though they're interested in the way democracies are formatted and made, nobody really considers important to discuss how internet influences it. However, there is a consideration that internet leads to democratization, and the way internet is used in the country, I mean, is it open access or not, influences what the political formation of the country would be. So considering it is a very important problem, which can lead to the very important answer, does the internet leads to democratization of the country? Research question is, to what extent does open access to the internet influence the democratization of the country? Saying and asking that, I would like to find whether it leads to democratization or not. If it leads, in what way it leads, and how does it do, to what extent, and if it does not lead to the democratization, does it lead to the opposite direction? Moving straight forward to the literature, I was using the first country I was discussing about is Russia. The first article was written by Marcus Alexander in 2004. It's called "The Internet and Democratization: The Development of Russian Internet Policy." So this article, the source, it states about ways which Russia was developing from the very beginning of the introduction of internet in their country. So the first obstacles they met during the development of internet is the economic development. So they didn't have enough resources to develop internet well. It is the first thing. Secondly, after Vladimir Putin became the president, from the very beginning he noticed the power of the internet. That is why he started to implement the special policies toward internet, restricting the freedom of speech, restricting the way you use the internet, restricting the information they get from the internet. And moreover, the organizations in Russia like FBS, they were controlling all the information flow, even the private information flow. Moreover, they implemented the law which stated that if people do not share their private information, all their passwords and logins and number of their telephones, the internet access will be restricted. What really happened? Showing that we see that internet policies in Russia are strict too, not as in China, but really strict. And that is why there is a huge contrast between the US and Russia. The next country I was considering a parallel to Russia is China. So China is very interesting to discuss about because it had huge problems. So comparing to Russia, which had about 14% of people using internet on their fourth year of their development, China had about 50% then. But the problem is that it is also a huge country, and people using internet will spread wide on the whole area of the country. So Then there was the urbanization, and after urbanization, all the people with high socioeconomic status, with high education, they moved to the center of the country. That shows that it creates the social gap between people, and it was also noticed by the author that there is a special huge gap between younger generation and older generation. So older generation are very vulnerable to the media, which is strictly controlled by the government, while younger generation usually do not consider media as the main source of information because they are using internet. However, in order to use the internet in China, they have to be educated enough to escape the rules and strict policies of the government, even though it is very risky. Most of the young people in China are using internet, and they were these arguments, they are going in contrast with the US, because the US is economically developed enough to develop the internet, and it was shown in that their number of users from 1 year to the second year will increase to 13 million. So that is a very huge number, taking into consideration it was in 1998 and 1996. Okay. And also, it was noticed that from the very beginning, the US used the internet thinking about their people. So they used the internet for people's quality of life, political awareness, their education and security growth. And thus, implementing these new rules and policies, one day it was called the age of internet democracy, showing a very noticeable and significant contrast between Russia, China, and the US. Going straight to the hypothesis of my research, it says that countries with open internet access are more likely to become or to be a democracy. So saying that, I mean that even though the internet does not directly lead to being a democracy, but it leads to democratization, because it is the main tool for people to seek for their rights and for the freedom of speech. And the next section is theoretical contribution. So conducting this research, I found the way internet influences the political formation and the way it leads to the democracy and to the democratization of the country. From this research, it was found that internet does not directly lead to democratization. However, there are three major things which can lead to it. It is economic development, political participation, and government internet-related policies and rules. So it was noticed that one part, the political participation or economic development using as a single tool does not lead to democratization. To gain success in these things need to be combined. So, showing on the example of the Russia, so there is a political participation among people. However, there is no Russia is not economically developed enough, and the governmental rules and policies toward internet are too strict. So, considering China, neither of these factors was noticed there, because people are really feared, so to be are really afraid of being active political participants, because the country really pushes them down. And considering the US, it was not that it is economically developed. There is a very huge political participation, and the governmental policies towards internet are very positive, which were made for the people, not for the government. The methods which would be implemented in the research, which will be implemented, is the quantitative research and also qualitative research. So there will be posted questions like, to what extent you feel your government restricts the flow of information of the internet? Do you feel that internet strives your country to democratization? Does internet provide freedom of speech? Such questions will be posted on their Russian sites and VS sites, and the results from these sites from this survey will be implemented in my proposal. And now going straight forward to the operationalization, the internet will be seen and political participation, so open internet access, will be seen in blogs, posts about politics, about government, and the extent in which people discuss the government and their policies and rules, and political participation of residents of this certain country in the internet. And my research question is, to what extent does open access to the internet influence the democratization of the country? Saying and asking that, I would like to find whether it leads to democratization or not. If it leads, in what way it leads, and how does it do, to what extent, and if it does not lead to the democratization, does it lead to the opposite direction?